and I'm a competitive programmer, and I'm a candidate master at code courses too. Moving forward to that, my specialization also includes in low-level design and high-level design. So let us move forward. So what we are talking about today. Today we are talking about the session with Postman. This is the introductory session, and in this session, the agenda would be, let me just share my screen at this point so that you have a better picture of this. Okay, so this. So now the very first question is where on earth I would come fall into this position is that go to practice.geeks.geeks. If you want to go to the long way and the intuitive way, go to practice.geeks.geeks. Go to courses, go to all courses, go to all courses, and then search Postman. Okay, you would land, and the very first link would be yours. You need to register yourself. I have already registered myself. So I'm seeing the window of start course. Now, if you don't want to do the Google search, you are lazy enough, and it's absolutely understood because people like us are meant to be a little bit lazy. So this is the link that you can go and register for yourself. If you are seeing this session on YouTube, you can go to the description section of this. Let us go to this. I think so. This would be Geeks for Geeks. I can see myself here up. So when you go down a bit, you would see that enroll in our course. That is the point. Damn, damn, damn. I need to pause this. Yep. So now you can just go and enroll from the link that is given in the description. These are the three ways you can land at this link. Okay. When you land at this link, you need to register yourself and then you need to start for free. This is a free course, so it won't charge you anything. It won't ask you for your bank details or credit card or stuff. It won't ask you to do an auto pay or set up an auto pay. That's absolutely nothing to do with this. Now, the most important part here is this video. Okay, this video is the most important thing here. This video summarizes the whole enrollment process of yours. Okay, and this is today's session. If you go to the live session, you would see today's session. You won't see the archived session because you are not the admin, of course. So these are the chapters you need to understand, you need to see. Now, what is the agenda apart from this? How to do from this? Let us first understand what is Postman, and then we would move forward to how do we register ourselves for Postman. Okay, so before we understand the character or the need of Postman, let us first understand what is an API. Okay, what is an API? This is the very first thing we would be doing. Like we would be doing a bottom-up approach, where we would be first taking down what is an API, then we would be climbing up and saying what is Postman. Okay, so what is first? Let us see what is an API. Okay, to understand the analogy of an API, I would urge that you understand the need of it first. So see, if you ever go, okay, if you like, I would assume that most of you have booked a railway ticket through IRCTC. Okay, there is a Chrome browser or an Internet Explorer or a Firefox, any browser. There is any browser, and you make a request that I want a train from, let's say, Dhanbad, that is my hometown, of course, Dhanbad to Delhi. Okay, you make a request, you see all the trains that are available. You see that are all the trains that are available, and then you can confirm or whatever is the scenario. Now, this thing, I made a request and I saw the trains that are available. Now, see, what happens is you go and tell them that I want these all list of that. And under the hood, it has a secret recipe of its own, which it uses and gives us the information of the train. Didn't understand? It's absolutely fine. Let me tell you what I'm talking about. Let us understand this technical thing in terms of real life analogy, where everyone would be able to relate it. Let's say I went up a restaurant. For example, I would take the example of KFC. For those who don't know, KFC, Coca-Cola, these are all the companies which have secret ingredients in them. So I went up to their store. I went up to their store, made a request of a meal. The meal got prepared in the kitchen and then it came back to the store. Now, how the food was made in the kitchen, that is not revealed to us. That is not revealed. This is not revealed. We can see that I have put up an order in the store. Someone took the order, gave, like, yes, this person wants the meal. Okay, fair enough. The chef inside it made the meal, gave it back. How the meal was made, what were the spices that were given, we are not made aware of that. In the same manner, this store that we are walking in is the browser. Basically, the store is the browser, and you, as the person who is making the request, is known as the client. Okay, similar to this, I made a request in the browser and there was some secret ingredients and it came back. Let us see a original visualization, like how can we see it under, like it goes under the hood, but we are not able to see it. Let us see what is that. Okay, so let us just open IRCTC, because this is something people should know. Okay, now see, if you just go to the network tab, what I did, please see it carefully. Go to the, do a left click, go on inspect, then go to network, then click on this button. Now this is telling recording a network activity. Perform a request or hit R to reload. Let us perform a request. Now let us say I want to see all the trains that are scheduled for tomorrow from Dhanbad to Delhi, New Delhi. Okay. Then if I do a search request, there would be an API here. Okay. Fair enough. Go to fetch SHR. Okay. Now see. Okay. See. What was the payload? See, this is the payload. Let us see this. Let us understand this. Okay, this is just like the store taking the request. Okay. See, destination station Delhi. Okay. Source station Dhanbad. Ticket type an E. That would be a code for them. Okay. Journey date journey date is given. So they just gave a request. Okay, I want all the train details for this date. Okay, and there from there came a response. What was the response? See, it is in this fashion. Train between station list. The very first one is Purva Express. What are the available type of classes? What is Netaji Express? What is the available type of train site ID? Then we have BK and Duronto Express. So everywhere in the internet is there by something known as API, is supported by API. There is why an API. API is there to support or to conceal or to hide that secret recipe, how the data is generated. So even if you go to something known as practice.geeksforgeeks, okay, let us see this. Let's go to something known as problem of that. Okay, let us say solved. Now see, this is how it works under the hood. See, if I go to network tab, do this, and preserve log should be done so that even if you refresh the page, this won't be there. So now if I just go to submit session and I move to the editor, now see, if I submit this, there would be a request made. See, if I submit this, just here, there would be a list of something. I submit this, see, a compiled request was made. Submission ID this. Then see the result. I got the result. What was the result? See, success error. In the CPP int function, no matching function call to construct lower array. Let us see. See, this is what we are doing. See, everything on the internet is clubbed by something known as API. API बस कुछ नहीं है. What is an API? As the name suggests, it is application programming interface. It's just that मैंने एक दोस्त को बोला भैया खाना बना दो. He would make it inside a closed door and give it back. What happens under the kitchen is known as backend. What is there on the front end side, what we see is the front end. Let me again now explain. Okay, now see. Okay, now see. What happens is, okay, now see. This is basically the kitchen, and this is the store. This front store is known as front end. This kitchen is known as back end. Okay. Now, what happens is, I as a company don't want you to know how am I processing the data. Facebook अपने यहाँ डेटा कैसे क्या प्रोसेस करता है ये आपको कभी पता चला? How Facebook processes and shows you the data, you ever got to know? No. Why? Because it is concealed inside a backend. Okay. So let's say you made an order that I want a meal. I want a meal. And here the meal can be prepared. Prepare meal. See, the backend or the kitchen prepares the meal. The store, I want a meal, and then here is your meal. It does all this. Here is your meal. It does all this thing. So now see, I want a person who can take this headache that go and go and say this order to the kitchen. When the meal has been prepared, when the meal has been prepared, prepared meal. When the meal has been prepared, you would give it back. This thing, asking for asking to do something is known as request. Returning something is known as response. In the terms of tech, how it is done, let's say, give me the name. Give the name. Just like IRCTC requested the details. Getting the name, like I search from the database, be it any DynamoDB, SQL, non-SQL, whatever it is. Getting the name, okay, getting the name, and then returning the name. So this is in the term of these are in the term of tech. This is a real life analogy so that it would help you to understand. Okay, this is basically, and this part, learning this is what is our focus. This is known as API. Okay, now what is this Postman for? Now let's say we made all the APIs and we don't have a front end to test it. We have made some APIs of ourselves. We have made some kitchen of ourselves, but we don't have a store to test. When we don't have a store to do that, we can use Postman as an alternative to that. Here, the alternative, when you don't have a store, you can use Postman as an alternative to this store or a front end to test your APIs. Like, is this working fine or not? Is that working fine or not? This is done by something known as Postman. Okay. So what is an API? API stands for Application Programming Interface. Basically, it is an interface to talk with each other. It is a contract between the client and the server. It is a contract between the client and the server. Client, what is what? Front end. Server is the backend. Client sent a request through an API. I told you, someone takes the request, someone gives it back. That is an API. After performing the request, the API will send back a response. Here, your food is ready. This is your response. Fair enough? Now, let us go back to what is Postman. Postman is a collaborative API platform that simplifies creating, using, and testing APIs with a UI. Why do we need an UI at this point? Because we don't have a front end to test that task. We don't have a front end and we want to test the back end. Then we use a Postman for the timing. See, and this is very realistic to the development process. Why? Because it doesn't go that way. Like, let's say I'm building out the backend, so I can't really say that front end, please integrate this, and I would test it. It doesn't go that. You can't waste the bandwidth of it. First, you need to be sure of your backend, and then you can give to the front end person to test it. It is used by many organizations like PayPal, Comcast, Philips, Walt Disney, Atlassian, Uber. Many people do this. Okay. Now, let us move forward. What is it in it for you? We have the Postman Students Program, where you would be elevating your knowledge. Like, what is this Postman all about? Student Leader Program and Classroom Program and all that. And this is what is an API. What are the different application? Requesting you to start meeting question. Please don't do all this. Will you share the PPT? Yes, I can share the PPT. APIs are used for communication between services. Told you this is the backend and front end. Access built-in hardware of a device. This is a high-level thing, like IoT devices use that. That is why access camera in a mobile IoT thing. Okay, we won't be going in this direction. What is an API? That enables code to talk with code. Front end is talking with back end. Both are basically a code itself. Now, API enables services to communicate with each other and businesses to open up product features for faster innovation. That's this. Just an exaggeration. Now, there are different types of API. Okay. One API is I would give you a proper example of that. One is a public API. What is a public API, Siddharth? Public API is something like this. Let us start a post now. See, and let's have some free public APIs. Free public APIs. Okay. uh, Okay. Now see, this is an history. Okay. Now see, I will show you one small thing. Now, if I make a request, if I send a request, I would get a data like this. You saw data like this when we were doing that console thing. See, we got a data. Okay. Now, we can have the same data in the browser also. If you observe, I opened it now. Remember, I opened it. I am in the browser also. I'm getting the same thing. Now, many people would ask me, अगर browser ही वो काम कर दे, why should we have another postman here? It is because browsers are capable of doing only get requests. It is not capable of doing post requests. Okay. And what is guest and get and post? There are different ways in a request is made. Sometimes if you go to a website of information, you would only get information. Sometimes you want to update your details. So in that a data is updated. Let us understand this different types of data, different types of requests. See, there are different categories of this request. What are the different categories? Let me make you understand in a layman's term. Sometimes you only want information. You only want info. Sometimes you want to update information. Sometimes you want to delete some information. Sometimes you want to add some information. These are the different types of requests you can have. In the same manner, delete, update, and these all things is categorized in different forms. What is that category? Let me just show you what is that category. See. So get is to retrieve information. Post is to send information. Put and patch is to update information, and delete is for deleting some information. These are the ways. So from browser, we can only make a get request. That is, we can only retrieve an information. Okay. That is why this API was a get method. So it worked on the browser. But if we go to a post method, okay, this won't work on the browser. Let me show you that. See. Okay, it is still making a get post uh, get request only. Okay, but if we can't add this, there is no option to add this. It is add this. See, now we can make a. Okay, they have made the same endpoint. Okay, where to send it? It would be there. Okay, now see. Okay, see, we got the data back. We made a request MacBook 14 Pro 16. Let's make it GFG. Then we would get the data. See, we are getting the data. But here it is still making a get request. See, it is not making a post request. Okay, so browsers are only capable of making get request, not post request. Okay, now this was an example of a free API that you can use to make up a website. But there are some private APIs. Like GFG's APIs are private. Okay, some of the APIs are private. What is that? Let me go to the. Okay, public APIs is what everyone can use. Like I can post pictures on that, and these are. Private APIs are the APIs that they don't want anyone else to use that. Like हमारे घर का खाना मैं नहीं चाहता रेस्टोरेंट में जो घर का खाना बनता है, I don't want anyone else to know that. Then that is a private API. And we have some security keys associated with that to authenticate that. Then we have some partner APIs. This is very important. Public and private is all about I want everyone to know, I don't want anyone to know. But partner is something that is in between. What is that partner? Let's say partner is just like my friend. Let's say I am in a relationship with my girlfriend. I want my friends to know because they are my friends, but I don't want anyone else to know because they are not my friends. This is a real life analogy example of partner APIs. Okay, this is a real life analogy of an example of a partner API. Okay, so let's say I have an API, okay, of let's say animals. There is a company named as XYZ. They paid me that I would be using your services. So they made a request to see animals and I would give them. But let's say ABC company also made a request. As he has not paid and he is not authenticated to do that, I won't give him. So this is neither public nor private if you observe. Why? Because we are giving out data to some of them. We are not hiding the data, but it is not, we are not even giving out to everyone. So that is why we say that partner APIs lies in between of public and private. Okay. One clear example is Google Maps. Uber uses Google Maps, but tomorrow you can't go and use Google Maps on your if you have not paid it. Okay. Now, a little bit of pulse check. What are some of the example of APIs that you have came across? Can I have a quick reply to this? What are the different examples of API? Can you be a little bit creative and can you tell me what are the different examples of an API? Okay. Others? Payment GPT API, Meals TV API, Weather PayPal API, Font Awesome, Jokes API. Good example. OpenAI, like ChatGPT, is a good example of an API. Okay, like you send a request, you made a request to that, it goes to the server and you get a request. Now, there is an API for everything. You want to listen songs, Facebook, Discord, send emails. There is an API for everything. Okay. Anything that people want to hide, they use something known as API. Okay. Now, I showed you an API in action. This is an API in action. Now, there is one more way we can use to test APIs. It is not just that only Postman is our savior to test APIs. We can test out APIs from the command line too. But as you can observe, that we can save the details, we can add some cookies over here, we can just do DRF, contact management, AI text summary, front end, back end, we can do all this. So we can organize everything through a front end. We can do the same thing using terminal also, but we can organize everything like it gives us a UI to test APIs. Okay, that is why, like, if there was no postman, you were have been doing this, but if there is a postman, you can do that by using click or something. It is just like पहले क्या था, पहले जब operating system so called ऐसे नहीं थे, there were only command line operating system. Now we have some graphical user operating system. In the same manner, we earlier we had command line to make request. Now we have postman to make request. You can still use command line you in as operating system. The same ways you can still use command line to test APIs. Okay, what's going behind the scene? As I told you, users make a request to the store, a store goes to the kitchen, makes something out of it, and it goes back. Okay, this is another form of picture which we can use. A client make a request through an API, API goes to the server, it takes things up and gives it back. Okay, then digging deeper, then we have an anatomy of a request. What are the different parts of it? Let us understand the different requests. Okay, there are different components of a request also. The components are, the very first thing is known as HTTP protocol. There is HTTP protocol also, there is HTTPS protocol also, and there are many other protocols like TCP also. Different protocols are used for different things. Like for video conferencing, we have different set of protocols, and that is you need to know the 7 layers. Okay, you need to know which is what, and then you would be able to understand. As of now, in a nutshell, you can understand that there are many different protocols, and the famous ones are HTTP, HTS, and TCP. For it, okay, like you can understand the OSI layer, and then you can understand this, but you don't need that as of now. Next one is the host or the website name. Then comes the path where we are going to hit. This is quite akin. Like if you observe here, if you go to the name of this, if you go to the payload of this, the link was API Geeks for Geeks, API latest problem submission result, submit result. So this is giving us the submission result. This is known as the path. And what is the name of this? What is the domain of this API? The domain of this API is practice API origin.geeksforgeeks.org. This is known as host, and that is the path. Okay. For example, this is the host, this is the path, and this is the something known as protocol. Next, we have something like request. There are different ways we can say what we want to do. Okay, what are the different requests we want to make? Let us see a good example of request over here. See here, ChatGPT.backend API memories include memory entries is equals to fall. Okay, and then recent limit is equals to 8. Okay, order is equals to updated. These are all the example of query parameters. Then we have path parameters also, just like we saw it here. Submission, submit, result. This doesn't have any question mark. Question mark after the link refers to as query params, and this thing refers to as path param. Okay, path parameter. Parameters is short name as params. And then we have request headers also. There is some authorization to let know what who is the other person who is asking it. We have different forms of cookie also. So if you have observed, if I log into Google and then I again come back, I see myself already logged in. This is done by something known as cookie. Then we have the content type. What is the content? MIME type, accept, user agent. There are many different datas that are stored. Cookie consent. There is many different website ask for cookie consent. Now this website stores cookie to have faster result. Do you allow that or not? This is because of this. Okay. Then we have the request body. Request body is something known as this. If you just go to that, see, I did go to body and then I made a request. Post request. This was a request body. Okay. Now it would give you a response from that side. It gave me a 200 okay. Now let us try to remove the name. Now see, it would most probably it would give a 400. Okay, data none. I should give it something like this. See, it gave me a 400 bad request. If I make some, if I make some wrong request, it is telling me 400 bad request. If I make the previous request, it would tell me, okay, it is fine. This is your food. Take this, this is your food. If you order something which is not present or not there, there are many different types of status code to tell you that. This is just telling you the result of that. What is the status of your food? Yes, your food has been successfully delivered. No, your food has not been could not be delivered. These are all the different scenarios in which there. Okay. Now let us move forward. We have status code. We saw a 400 bad request. We saw 200 also. These are the different ways in which we know that whether it is correct or not correct. What was our response? What is the status of the thing? Okay. Now you can see for yourself how can you make a request. Then after that, we would be discussing in the next session the AI text summarizer app, where we would be seeing how to build out a full stack AI text summarization and how Postman would help us. For that, you need to enroll in this. If you face any difficulty regarding the enrollment process, make sure you go to this video and see this video with care. See. This video would tell you all the different scenarios where you can go and learn everything. So that was it from my side. Now we have something known as the Q&A. Now this is an open forum. You can ask me anything. Okay, will you share the PPT through Google Drive? Okay, I would share the PPT. Okay, here is the PPT link. Now, anyone has any queries? You can ask me. This is an open forum now. Postman is used as a front-end support to make request and for response, which is a backend. You can use any Postman is used as a front-end support to make request and for response, which is backend. You can use any live website, right? Yes, you can use a live website to make request to a backend. But if you let's say you are making the API, then you need to test it. No? How do you recommend to improve how to work with APIs? What do you recommend to improve how to work with APIs? See, to work with APIs, to work with APIs, you need to know a tech stack. You need to know all the in and outs of APIs. To improve the API, there are different forms you can improve the API, performance of an API. You can do something known as unit testing so that your API never gives a 500 error. You can do something known as observing all the net requests that you are making to the database, and you can implement a database connection pool if you are using multiple connections. Then you can implement caching over the response. for faster response. So these are the different, there are many different tons of improvements that you can do to your API to improve your API. Okay, I'm working professional. Can I register for the course? You mentioned yes, irrespective of your current scenario, irrespective of your current status, irrespective of your background, you can register the course. There is no foundation on the registration. There is no hidden fees on the registration. Okay. Anyone else who would like to ask me anything? Okay. So, difference between Postman and REST API. REST API is a form of API, and Postman is not an API. Postman is I can say, a thing to test the APIs. Okay. Postman is a thing to test APIs. REST API is a form of API. There are different forms of API. Okay, I have a question. This is summer edition bootcamp. I am from winter edition bootcamp. I've completed all the modules and everything. So when we will get this swag, when we would get swags, you can just drop a mail to the Geeks for Geeks team. They would get in touch with you. Is there any deadline to complete the course? Yes, there is a deadline that before the next session you should complete. And the next session would be around 14 days to 21 days. Okay. So that was it from my side. I hope you enjoyed. Okay, then just drop a mail to get the swags or to know about the swag. They will send after 2 or more classes. Yes, they would send you. So that was it from my side. And this was all about APIs, Postman, and this. I tried my level best to make you understand. If still, if you think that I can improve, feel free to comment in the YouTube live video or let me know in my LinkedIn if you're not comfortable posting it publicly. And if you think that I did a good job and I should be appreciated, make sure you comment on the video of the YouTube so that the reach of this video could be increased and this work could be justified on a weekend. Thank you, everyone. Goodbye. Take care.